Right. Okay, good morning. I'm going to call, excuse me. Good morning. My name is Deputy Mayor Paul Ainsley. I am the chair of the General Government Committee. We have quorum this morning, so I'm going to call meeting number 26 to order. Welcome, everybody. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person here in City Hall in the Council Chamber. This meeting is also being live streamed at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. For the land acknowledgement, I would like to say on behalf of my colleagues and City of Toronto staff that although we may be meeting in different locations today, the General Government would like to acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty Number 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. If you're registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen to me to call your name. I will call speakers in the order they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the General Government Committee at the City of Toronto's website at toronto.ca/council and clicking on the speakers box for today's meeting. For my colleagues, I just want to remind you the City Clerk has provided all of our agenda materials online at toronto.ca/council and on the Clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are also here if you have any issues with your electronic devices, and a reminder to please submit and approve your motions by email. If you can send them to the Clerk at ggc@toronto.ca to help with motions. At this point, I'm going to ask if there's any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Seeing none, can I have a motion to confirm the minutes of our last meeting on October 23rd, 2025? Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. Members, we have 40 items on today's agenda, and we have one new item of business to introduce. So I'm going to start with our agenda review, starting with GG 26.3. Sorry, did I say 3? I meant 1. Getting ahead of myself already. First item is, need my pen too. Sorry, just a moment. All right, GG 26.1, largest property tax debtors with tax arrears greater than $500,000 as of December 31st, 2024. Councillor Thompson's holding number 1. GG 26.2, summary of open competitive awards made by the Chief Procurement Officer from October 1st, 2025 to November 14th, 2025, sorry. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.3, suspension of Capital Sewer Services Incorporated and affiliated persons. We have deputants on that one, so I will hold that one for deputants. GG 26.4, amendment to blanket contract number 470-24548, 470-24551, and 470-25697 with 911 Interpreters Incorporated for real-time over-the-telephone interpretation services for revenue services, Toronto Fire Services, and the Housing Secretariat. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.5, amendment to blanket contract 470-25000 with Onyx Enterprise Solutions Limited for the storage of network switch hardware and maintenance. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.6, amendment to blanket contract 4702-5072 with Cardinal Health Canada Incorporated for medical and personal care supplies for senior services and long-term care homes. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.7, amendment to blanket contract 4702-5428 with CompuCom Canada Incorporated for the supply of personal computing devices and services leveraging the provincial vendor of record. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.8, amendment to blanket contract number 470-24679 with Toromont Material Handling, a division of Toromont Industries Limited, for the supply and delivery of additional ride-on litter vacuums. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.9, amendment to legal agreement for purchase order 605-6776 with Dependable Truck and Tank Limited for the non-exclusive supply and delivery heavy rescue squad trucks for use by Toronto Fire Services. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.10, amendment to legal agreement with Motorola Solutions Canada Incorporated for the provision of radio communications infrastructure and associated services for emergency services. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.11, award of document 52702511913 to GIP Paving Incorporated for basement flooding protection program phase 4, Ward 2.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Holyday. Moved by Councillor Holyday. On favor? That carries. GG 26.12, award of negotiated request for proposal document 533-1229053 to Sure General Contractors for the Tribro Group Limited and COSAR GCPM suppliers for the provision of general trades and minor building repairs at various City of Toronto locations. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.13, award of request for tender document 522-33-16418 to Alberici Constructors Limited, the Ashbridges Bay Treatment Plant Integrated Pumping Station Construction Contract 3, Quick Start, Ward 14. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.14, amendment to purchase order 604-9957 and 605-3507 with ACOM Canada ULC for the Ashbridges Bay Treatment Plant existing pelletizer upgrades project. I'm going to move that one. Moved by me. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.15, amendment for non-competitive blanket contract 470258889 with the Energy Cap Incorporated for the utility invoice processing services. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.16, amendment to non-competitive contract 47023371 with 2790584 Ontario Incorporated for catering for multiple Toronto shelter and support services locations. That one's being held by Councillor Thompson. GG 26.17, amendment to non-competitive purchase order 6055323 with Accenture for professional services. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.18, award of document 50802396163 to the Premier Racket Club Corporation for the operation and maintenance of seasonal sports bubbles for tennis and related services for the Eglinton Flats Park. I will move that one. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.19, amendment to authority to execute blanket contract with Salesforce Com Canada Corporation for the cloud-based services. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? GG 26.20, amendment to authority to execute blanket contract with Granicus for the development, tracking, platform licenses, and professional services. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. We're halfway through going through our agenda. GG 26.21, emergency non-competitive contract with Alberici Constructors Limited for roof replacement at the Humber Treatment Plant Operations and Control Center in Ward 3. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.22, execution of the construction agreement with a Kilmer Tricon for the construction of the new Toronto Paramedic Services Multifunction Station at 610 Bay Street in Ward 11. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.23, non-competitive contract with Cornerstone On Demand Incorporated for the city's enterprise talent management system and online learning. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.24, non-competitive contract with Grasken Construction Limited, Torbridge Construction Limited to repair selected FG Gardner Expressway concrete vents at Bay Street and Yonge Street. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.25, non-competitive contract with IBM Canada Limited for IBM Maximo Application Suite Software as a Service. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.26, non-competitive contract with various suppliers for the purchase of proprietary parts and services for the maintenance of specialized laboratory instruments for Toronto Water in Ward 5. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.27, non-competitive procurement with the Symphony Talent LLC for skills assessment services. Councillor Thompson, would you like to move that one? All in favor? That carries. GG 26.28, non-competitive procurement of heritage compliant marble for the Tennessee Marble Company for Union Station Great Hall flooring restoration. I will happily move that one. Sorry?
I wanted to move it. It's my favorite building in the city.
It's my favorite building too.
Right.
Matthew, we're moving it together. No? Councillor Holiday's moving it. I'll grudgingly let him have it. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.29, revised and restated non-competitive master services agreement with Smart Simple Software Incorporated for Toronto Grants, Rebates, and Incentives Portal. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.30, request for approval to apply proposal fees and break fees on Gardner Expressway Rehabilitation Section 4, Grand Magazine Street to York Street. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. Councillor Holiday's favorite expressway?
Of course, connecting the west end of the city.
Next is GG 26.31, 160 Eglinton Avenue East. Designation of a portion of the property used by Central Eglinton Community Center as a municipal capital facility. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.32, 550 Broadview Avenue. Designation of a portion of the property used by East End Arts Toronto as a municipal capital facility in Ward 14. Moved by Councillor Cheng. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.33, Councillors' Constituency Offices, designation of portions of property used as a municipal capital facility in Ward 11 and Ward 25. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.34, expropriation of property interest near Summerhill Station for a secondary exit project. This is stage 2. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.35, George Street Revitalization Project, progress update and project delivery model for Ward 13. Moved by Councillor Cheng. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.36, George Weston Recital Hall renovations at the Meridian Arts Center in Ward 18. Moved by Councillor Cheng. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.37, license extension and amendment agreement for air quality monitoring station at Metro Hall at 55 John Street in Ward 10. Moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.37, license and extension and amendment agreement for air quality monitoring. Sorry, I got that one already, didn't I? GG 26.38. 2024 update on fire and life safety compliance at the City of Toronto. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.39, occupational health and safety report for the end of year 2024. I will move that. All in favor? That carries. GG 26.34, community groups animation of the City Hall podium rooftop floral gardens. Sorry, did I say 39? Sorry, I'm going too quick. GG 26.40, community groups animation of the City Hall podium rooftop floral gardens. I will move that. All in favor? That carries. And last but not least, GG 26.41, non-competitive contract with Axon Enterprises for the Axon Justin Premier licenses. This item hasn't been added to the agenda yet. I need a motion added to the agenda. Moved by Councillor Holyday. All in favor? That carries. And I'll leave this one for now. Or you're okay with moving it, Councillor Holyday? Councillor Holyday is moving GG 26.41. Non-competitive contract with Axon Enterprise Incorporated for the Axon Justice Premier licenses. All in favor? That carries. I got coffee, but thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Holyday. So we're going back to items that have our deputations or speakers. So our first item is GG 26.3, suspension of Capital Sewer Services Incorporated and affiliated persons. So we have 6 registered speakers. So you'll be speaking at the table up here in the center. Just to let the speakers know, you have 5 minutes to address the members of the committee. Each member of the committee has up to 5 minutes to ask you questions. Once all of the deputants have been heard, we do what we call bringing it back into committee, where each member of the committee can ask questions of staff for up to 5 minutes. And then each member of the committee can move motions if they so choose, or speak to the recommendations before us.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Thompson?
I wonder if we could have a presentation from staff prior to engaging speakers.
Yep, the Auditor General is here. The Auditor...
And Ms. Sharkey as well.
Sorry?
Oh, are they both here, Ms. Sharkey and the Auditor General?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right, we'll start with a presentation.
Thank you.
So just to the members of the public, we're going to have a presentation from staff on this item before we do the deputations. And sorry, the will of the committee to ask questions of staff after the presentation? After the presentation? Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, through the chair. Quick introduction. I am Genevieve Sharkey, the Chief Procurement Officer for the City of Toronto. And with me is...
I'm Jennifer Graham Harkness. I'm the Chief Engineer and Executive Director for Engineering and Construction Services.
Today we are here to speak on GG 26.3, the suspension of Capital Sewer Services and affiliated persons. Thank you. Overview. Why we're here. Subcontractor quotes were altered and inflated by Capital Sewer on the Dufferin project, resulting in the city being overbilled by more than $1 million. Capital Sewer retained more than $1 million as well that was overbilled, and a senior management employee earned a commission on the inflated amounts. The company failed to identify the altered invoices, the associated overbilling, and the unexplained funds within its accounts. These actions contravene the Supplier Code of Conduct in the procurement bylaw, which is why we are coming with the following recommendation. Staff recommend a 5-year suspension of Capital Sewer and all affiliated companies. This is the maximum suspension allowed under the Supplier Code of Conduct in the procurement bylaw for this type of activity. Recommendation is the Chief Engineer and Executive Director, Engineering and Construction Services, and the Chief Procurement Officer recommend that City Council suspend Capital Sewer and any affiliated persons, as defined in Chapter 195, eligibility to bid on or be awarded any City of Toronto contracts as a supplier of goods and/or services, or as a subcontractor to such supplier, including any options or renewals of existing contracts for a period of 5 years, commencing upon the date of approval of this report.
Thanks, Jen. Just to begin, I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that the information presented today and the basis of the staff recommendations reflects the findings of this that city staff and KPMG have been able to verify to date. So I'll begin with the triggers and the investigation. So the city's investigation was triggered by internal controls and fraud and waste hotline complaints in March 2024, stemming from irregularities in change order documentation on the Dufferin project, as we know it. A change order is a formal written modification to a construction contract. It's used when work needs to be added, removed, or adjusted from the original scope of the contract. So between March of 2024 and December 2024, the city investigated irregularities and allegations and conducted internal reviews. We identified significant discrepancies in subcontractor quotes submitted to the city through our change order process. In December 2024, Engineering and Construction Services initiated a formal audit of the Dufferin project, and Capital Sewer, the contractor on this project, was not fully cooperative until July 2025, despite the city presenting significant evidence of its findings and analysis. The city also hired KPMG in July 2025 as an independent forensic auditor to review the city's concerns. The KPMG report and letter findings that we received. What we understand is that a senior employee at Capital Sewer, who played a central role in the company, referred to as Staff A, engaged in the alteration of subcontractor quotations and overbilling on the Dufferin project. We call that the overbilling schemes. For example, Capital Sewer provided a quote to Engineering and Construction Services for certain work to be completed by a subcontractor through the change order process at a cost of $1.3 million. When Engineering Construction Services went directly to the same subcontractor and requested a quote for the same scope of work, the quote received was $472,000 and change. This is a difference of $872,553. Staff A was promoted in 2022. As part of that promotion, Staff A assumed administrative oversight of change orders and negotiated a bonus plan whereby Staff A would receive a 2.25% of the value of all change orders executed under Staff A's control. Capital Sewer had control deficiencies, and the result was that the individuals in finance and accounting roles responsible for paying subcontractors would not have been able to identify the overbilling schemes. The city was overbilled $1,114,506 in relation to the Dufferin project. Overbillings have been potentially identified on other city projects involving Capital Sewer and its affiliates. KPMG's audit work has been expanded beyond the Dufferin project to determine the extent and scope of overbilling and support the city's next steps. So some key considerations. Capital Sewer retained overbilled funds while paying subcontractors their original pricing. Further review of this is underway through KPMG. Staff disagree with Capital Sewer's claim of immediate and decisive action. Given the 8-month delay from the time they were made aware of our concerns and the time they took action. Internal controls recently adopted by Capital Sewer have not been tested or proven effective. The incentive structure and related oversight gaps reflect broader concerns about Capital Sewer's corporate controls and practices. While Capital Sewer has dominated the sewer rehabilitation program for the city, the staff recommendation would not affect our overall capital program delivery. The city has exercised its contractual right to set off detected overbillings to date and initial KPMG audit costs. However, staff remain concerned that additional overbillings have not yet been detected or confirmed. Continued KPMG audit costs will be borne by Capital Sewer and its affiliated persons.
Thanks, Jen. In conclusion, the city's sole role is to uphold accountability and protect the integrity of public funds by enforcing the Supplier Code of Conduct. The recommendation has been based on a balanced review of whether Capital Sewer's conduct presents a risk to the city's valid commercial or business interests. The city's procurement processes are governed by the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 195, Procurement, or the Procurement Bylaw. Article 13, the Supplier Code of Conduct in the Procurement Bylaw, sets out standards for ethical business practices, transparency, and accountability. The misconduct involved clear breaches of the Supplier Code of Conduct, including overbilling, retaining overpayments, and submitting misleading or false information. The temporary suspension expires on December 30th, 2025. This is why we are here recommending a 5-year suspension based on KPMG's findings to date. The final forensic audit report from KPMG will be presented to the Auditor General and the applicable standing committee, providing full transparency on the extent of the misconduct and the measures taken to address it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Much appreciated, and your work's very much appreciated. Questions of staff on the presentation? You want to do it after? Yeah. Okay, all right, we're going to do that after. Thank you very much. So we're going to go to our speakers list. Our first speaker is Alessandra Leggio Di Matteo from NMP LLP. And Matthew Musters, are you together? Okay, perfect. And the clerk's just reminding me you're each registered, so you can have up to 10 minutes or 5 minutes each. Okay, you can start whenever you're ready.
Good morning, councillors. We're here to speak on behalf of GG 26.3, suspension of capital and affiliated persons. My name is Alessandra Leggio. I'm a partner at M&P in forensics and litigation support, and I'm accompanied by my colleague, Matt Musters.
Good morning, councillors. I'm National Lead of Digital Forensics at M&P, and I was primarily responsible, my team and I, for collecting the digital evidence in this case. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
I worked on the forensic accounting portion of this matter. In July 2025, we were retained by CSS and Council to perform digital forensics and forensic accounting services in relation to this matter. Our initial focus was on reviewing documentation related to 2 specific projects with the city, the first one being Dufferin and Maple, and as a result of a letter that was provided on April 25th, 2025 from the city to Capital. We expanded our scope to include all CSS affiliated entities with contracts with the city over the past 5 years, which included Clean Water Works, Utility Force, and other CSS contracts. As part of our procedures, we collected approximately 43 devices, and Matt will have more information on that if I'm misspeaking, pertaining to various employees of CSS and affiliated entities. We preserved the digital evidence, and we analyzed contents in some of that evidence. We were provided with physical documentation related to the contracts with the city, and we reviewed that documentation. We held interviews with various employees at CSS or its affiliated entities, and we held various discussions with employees to understand the roles within the organization. We reviewed internal communication at Capital as well as external communication between Capital and suppliers and/or subcontractors. We also recalculated the change order values based on original documentation which was provided, as well as modified documentation that we identified, to come up with a variance in amounts owing back to the city. We also reviewed the various processes in place, and we understood the processes through conversations with various employees and process owners to identify the processes that were in place and provide recommendations for improvement. At the end of our investigation, we completed 2 reports, one which related to Dufferin and Maple findings, as well as the second report, which was for the affiliated entities. For our findings, based on the evidence that we reviewed, we identified instances where the original subcontractor documentation, which was received from subcontractors, including quotes and invoices, were modified, and that modified documentation was submitted as part of the change order package to the city. Specifically for Dufferin and Maple, we identified 12 change orders for the Dufferin project, which were impacted by the modified documentation with excess billings of approximately $1.1 million, as well as 3 change orders for the Maple project, and we identified excess billings of approximately $15,000. For the additional projects, which included Clean Water Works, Utility Force, and other capital projects, we identified 7 change orders in relation for other CSS projects, approximately $260,000 in overbillings, 1 change order for Clean Water Works of approximately $6,000, and 32 change orders or documentation for 6 Utility Force construction projects with overstatement values of approximately $260,000. We did not identify any evidence which indicates that subcontractors were involved or aware of the modification in the subcontractor documentation. Our evidence indicates that one individual, a former senior employee, was involved in the actual modification of the subcontractor documentation. We identified this through an identified ChatGPT conversation on this former staff's mobile device, where this individual asked ChatGPT how to clear the metadata for a document that had been modified. And along with the conversation, he also sent the document. We also identified a consistent pattern whereby modified documentation was identified being scanned to this staff's corporate email address. We also plotted a timeline in relation to the modified documentation and identified when this staff became promoted and when other individuals were either hired or left the organization, and when the modification of documentation took place. We understand that there were other former project managers or project coordinators that were aware of the modification. However, we did not uncover any evidence that indicates that these individuals were involved with the actual modification. And I will take you back to the ChatGPT conversation. We did not identify that for other individuals. We did not identify any evidence that indicates that the CEO was aware that the original documentation was being modified. How did we determine this? It was also based on the roles of each individual within the organization. As I mentioned before, we also went through the various processes in place at the time, and we identified that there were processes in place, although they were not documented, and the former staff did circumvent the processes that were in place. The controls in the organization were quite weak, and there was little documentation related to the controls. So we've recommended certain internal controls for improvement. We further understand that as soon as the scheme was discovered, Capital began implementing changes to their controls. As part of our mandate, we provided recommendations in related to the changes to the internal controls, and these include implementation of policies and procedures, implementation of certain checks and balances in relation to original documentation provided by subcontractors, as well as the documentation that's provided as part of change orders to the city or other clients. We understand that as part of certain processes, now there is checks to identify that subcontractor documentation provided by the subcontractor is consistent with the documentation that's provided as part of change order packages to the city or other clients. There has also been a new email account which has been implemented for subcontractors to provide their quotes and documentation. I will say, though, that we have not tested the design nor the effectiveness of these controls, and it is recommended that this does take place in the future. Thank you.
You're good?
I'm good. I'm primarily here to answer questions.
Okay. Questions of the deputy. Councillor Holiday?
Thank you. I want to be clear, there was a statement at the beginning that you were retained by CSS and council, but those are two different people. So who did you work for in this process?
So it is common for us to be retained by counsel on behalf of their client, which would be Capital. And the reason why we do this is just to maintain that privilege.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by privilege?
Client counsel solicitor privilege.
So you provide the information to the solicitor, and the solicitor provides it to their client.
Correct.
Understand that correctly? Okay. And you're here deputing on whose request?
On Capital's request to provide our findings.
But does that direction come from the solicitor? I guess because they hired you.
So
I just want to
privilege.
understand the relationship.
Yeah. So privilege has been waived. So I did speak to counsel on various occasions in relation to presenting, and privilege has been waived.
Okay. You mentioned something here, and I'm sorry, I scrawled notes as fast as I could. You mentioned that there were other individuals that were aware. Could you elaborate a little bit on that statement?
Sure. So through the review, we did identify that there were other project managers and potentially project coordinators, I don't really know their exact title, who worked for this former staff, who were aware that the documentation was modified through conversations. This is what it appeared.
Can you explain to me how the documentation was modified? Like, did somebody use whiteout, or
No.
maybe a little more sophisticated, but could you just tell me what you saw?
So based on the chat GPT conversation and the metadata being changed, being modified, this suggests that the document was changed right on a computer. So they would have potentially changed the numbers and then save the document again.
I'm sorry, you have to walk me through the basics. In what format was the document provided from the subcontractor to the general contractor?
In PDF.
Okay, PDF. And so what happened? Did somebody change the PDF?
It appears so.
And was it just the number, or was there additional information that was changed?
Both. Sometimes the description, and so always a number, which is how we got to the spread, to the difference between the original and the modified value. And sometimes the description was changed as well.
Okay, so you got to my next question, because sometimes I noticed, I was trying to see if it was like one number that was changed, or was it more complicated, but it sounds like it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, yeah, sure.
Okay, and then so somebody changed the document, and then what happened to the document? And what happened to the old one?
I don't know what happened to the old one, but presumably the new one would have been saved and then sent as part of the change order package.
Oh, I see. So the document was that forwarded to the city, the one that was changed?
It would have been included as part of the change order package. So the change order will usually include, whenever there's a subcontractor that's involved in the specific change order, then the invoice or the quote would be included as part of that package submitted to the city.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the city actually received the document as well that was changed.
Correct.
So it wasn't just, here's the new price, and then here's a bunch of stuff with it.
No, no. And the way that we did our procedures is we checked the change order package that was submitted to the city.
And, okay, and then what was the span of time that you found that this was going on? And was that limited in scope by the request of your client?
No, so at first it was, we reviewed Dufferin and Maple, and this went back, it was about a little bit more than 2 years. And then we further expanded the scope to include all contracts with the city over the past 5 years. So the scope was actually expanded.
And what's Maple?
It's a Maple, the Maple project, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm over time, Mr. Chair. Could I just get the clarification on what the Maple project is?
Yep, go ahead.
Is there an address or a description?
It's.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holliday. Councillor Thompson, questions?
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the presenters from MNP for being here with us. I just wanted to pick up where my colleague had left off with respect to, you define them as project managers and project coordinators, recognizing that they were aware that there were some nefarious activities taking place. Could you tell me procedurally, was there a mechanism within the organization in which they could have reported that through to senior management so that actions could have been taken?
Such as a whistleblower hotline or something?
Yeah.
No, there was not.
Okay, thank you. Could you then help me to understand, with respect to the individual that we're sort of pointing a finger at as being that one person solely responsible? That's how I'm gathering it. That's not what you stated as such. That's how I'm gathering it. There was an agreement with respect to a percentage factor that would be paid as part of the overcharge or over order and so on. When did that take place?
So that would have been in June 2022 when that individual was promoted. That's when the 2.25% would have been applied.
Right. And how long had that individual been working for this company?
More than 5 years.
More than 5 years.
Yeah.
All right. So let me then understand. If that individual, the overage is $1, and that individual is getting $2.25, what happens to the remainder of the funds? Where does that go? Does that go to the company, their bank account?
Yeah.
All right. So let's sort of play this out, just role play. So I have a company and I get that extra amount of funds. Would the system not allow their accountants and so on not recognizing that there is something happening here? I mean, they would just be able to collect the funds and not realizing that there was some overcharges? I mean, was there sort of a mechanism that allows them to understand what the subcontractor was actually charging? Was there no mechanism in place?
So as part of our procedures, we did not test those
Okay,
processes.
All right, so let me then ask you a few more questions. You talked about the Maple project. You talked about, I believe you identified 12 overcharges and 12 for Dufferin and 3 for Maple. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You also mentioned a number of others as well. I think there was a number of some 200 overage. Was that correct, or did I hear you improperly?
So there was, for additional capital projects, there was approximately $267,000.
Okay, it was a $267.
Correct.
And how many incidents of overcharge or overage did that sort of equal to? Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10?
7.
7. Okay.
Yes.
So your organization, which is actually a brilliant organization, and I've looked and done some research on you and so on, you are very much a professional organization, and the work that you do, obviously you stand behind that based on the premise of the work, right? So can I then ask you, do you detect patterns? Is that part of the work that you do? You look at patterns and you see how things come about and the results as a result of those patterns. Would that be correct?
In certain instances,
All right. So in defining a pattern, what is the consistency or what is the correlation in terms of your assessment and looking at the pattern in order to arrive at a theory and or a decision point? How does that help you to determine sort of the relative balance of the information and the gathering of the information and then the results as to your finding? How does that help you? And again, speaking to the pattern.
yeah. So in relation to the pattern, it's really, it helps us identify what the situation is. There could be certain deviations to patterns for sure, but it does help us identify and paint the picture of what's taking place. If we see a consistent pattern, then it helps us identify the situation and what's happening.
Got you. So what was taking place here based on your finding?
So it appeared, and again, it's more than just the pattern.
Sure.
But
I
the
got you.
pattern also in relation to the timeline, and as you mentioned, the 2.25 date as well as that one conversation where the modified document is actually being sent for the metadata to be cleared. So those three items, not just a pattern standing alone,
Sure.
points to one specific individual.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looks like I'm over.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Cheng, do you have questions of the deputant?
Thank you. Through the chair, the city reached out to Capital Sewer in December 2024. Do you know why the company waited until July 2025 to commence their own audit?
I'm assuming, I don't know. I'm assuming they were probably doing internal reviews. I don't know. That's not part of our procedures.
In the report, KPMG, it says KPMG reporting letter indicates overbillings have been potentially identified on other city projects involving Capital Sewer. You have done what sounds like an exhaustive audit. Are you confident that KPMG will not find any further overbillings based on your audit?
We could never, we could never say definitively that that's the case.
Mm-hmm. And how much time would it take to test out the new controls that have been instated and analyze whether or not they are sufficient?
In relation to testing the design can happen almost right away, but the effectiveness is over a period of time. I would say 6 months, for example. It really depends on the comfort.
Mm-hmm. And has that testing begun?
I don't test the controls. I wouldn't be able to do the testing of the controls.
Who would be able to do that kind of testing? Is that something that MNP could provide that service?
No, this would have to be another firm. It would have to be independent of our forensic audit.
Great, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cheng. And I believe that is everybody on the committee. Thank you very much for your deputation this morning. Next, I have David Beswick from Capital Sewer Services. For Mr. Besner, are you taking your 5 minutes as well?
We will combine our time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. You have 10 minutes whenever you're ready.
Good morning, committee.
It's also, so Jamie Besner from Sussex Strategy, the last person on the deputant's list. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee members. My name is David Beswick, President of Capital Infrastructure Group. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of my family and the 600 men and women who work tirelessly to keep Toronto's infrastructure running. For more than 2 decades, Capital has been a dependable partner to Toronto, called upon time and time again to handle the city's most urgent sewer and infrastructure challenges. I stand here before you deeply humbled by what happened. A single, long-time trusted employee, someone who held a position of great responsibility, betrayed not only me and our company, but also the trust of you, our client, the City of Toronto. His actions do not reflect who we are or what we stand for. And while he acted alone, as president, I take full accountability for ensuring this never happens again. The city staff report recommends a 5-year suspension, the maximum possible. That decision would not only penalize Capital, but also jeopardize the livelihoods of 600 skilled employees and the critical services they deliver to this city every day. The staff report suggests we didn't take decisive action and that the city became aware of discrepancies in March of 2024. Yes, it wasn't until December 2024 that the city staff first requested audit material from us, without any details as to why. Requests like this are normal course, so we responded immediately in compliance with our contractual requirements. When more information was requested, we again responded without delay. During this whole period, ECS continued to approve more than $6 million in change orders without raising one concern to us. Therefore, we had no reason to think anything was wrong. Capital was not informed of any issues by the city during this whole period of time. If the city first became aware of an issue in March of 2024, why were we only told 14 months later on May 5th, 2025, when we received a letter where we were specifically advised of a potential issue? What we did not know at that time was that our responses were being prepared internally by the same rogue employee. By June 24th, when ECS asked why 2 specific documents could not be produced, the VP in question began showing erratic behavior, including attempts to erase company records. We removed his access immediately. Following the discovery of the irregularities, within 1 business day, we retained M&P as an independent third-party forensic auditor to conduct a full review. Their 90-page report has been shared with the city and committee members. The city's own external auditors, KPMG, collaborates many of their M&P's findings. M&P's investigation examined over 70 devices, 3.2 million documents, and 5 years of all city contracts performed by the capital entities. M&P and later KPMG confirmed that this individual acted alone and that neither management nor other employees were involved. Also, we immediately reported the matter to Toronto Police Service, who commended us on our response, quote, we were acted appropriately and responsibly. As you have heard today from Ms. Leggio of MMP, Capital has since overhauled our internal controls, implemented new protocols and governance standards that meet and exceed industry best practices. These include enhanced financial oversights, new segregation of duty protocols, and ongoing independent audits. We did not wait to be told to act by anyone. We acted immediately. The MNP audit shows $1.1 million in overbillings over 3 years on a $24 million contract with the city. The sum was undetectable within normal controls because there are monthly constant adjustments in a work in progress. It's an industry document, a WIP. Billings across this time period because the other thing was the individual in question also papered as fraud. It was also undetected because Capital bills 35 clients monthly with approximate revenues of $200 million annually. We were never looking for a fraud within our own team when the city continued to grant us further contracts. Our 20-year record of service to the city demonstrates value, accountability, and dedication to public service. We would never knowingly put our most important customer at risk. Our 600 employees are frontline workers. Men and women throughout the pandemic entered confined hazardous spaces to keep Toronto's sewers functioning and our city safe. Even while we've been under suspension, the city has turned to us repeatedly to assist in emergency work, a value of more than $4.5 million in critical repairs in that time period. A $1.3 million emergency repair currently in Forest Hill issued to us in mid-November. A 48-inch brick sewer pipe running under the DVP currently being rehabilitated to avoid catastrophic failure for the city at a cost of approximately $800,000 authorized to us on November 27th. These emergencies are assigned to us because no other contractor could or would perform this work. While we've been under suspension, the city has incurred an additional $6.6 million in project costs by moving to the second lowest bidder. Capital's bids to the city has saved the city over $60 million over the past 5 years by being low bid. In conclusion, the proposed 5-year ban puts more than 300 jobs at risk. As has been the case for the last 6 months, while capital has been suspended, removing us from the vendor pool will increase contract costs to the city by at least 15%. We believe the final KPMG findings will affirm the findings of MNP that have already been received. Our request is that committee shorten the proposed ban to 6 months to allow KPMG to conclude its audit and test our systems and controls. Working with the city, we will retain external auditors to conduct spot repairs and end-of-contract audits on all city work to ensure further transparency and accountability. Should the city staff still not be satisfied at the end of 6 months, City Council can further extend the ban at that time. Thank you for your time and for your consideration, and on behalf of the hundreds of families and essential workers, some of whom are here today, that depend on this company, I welcome questions.
Mr. Besner, you can use the last of the 3 minutes.
No, I think Mr. Beswick has summed it up well. Thank you.
Sorry?
No, thank you. Not
Okay.
this time.
All right, questions of the deputant? Councillor Holliday?
Sirs, thank you for speaking to us. In your deputation, you mentioned that you forwarded the MNP report, and I believe I have that. I wondered if it's a technical clarification. That report is marked privileged and confidential, and it's also watermarked with my name on it, which is something I'm accustomed to with documents which are prohibited for me to circulate. Could you just tell me what the status is of that? Am I able to discuss that, to be public about it? I just didn't know, and it's a technical clarification.
Privilege was waived for you
Okay.
and the other committee members.
There was one other technical matter on this. It appears in the bottom right-hand corner on every page, there's a black bar, and I don't know if that's a style graphic or if that's a redaction. Is that, and it may be very innocuous. Can you tell me why it's there?
The only thing that was knowingly redacted were names of specifically identified individuals. There was nothing else that was redacted. I don't know what you're referring to specifically, Councillor.
I don't know if you can see it. See the black bar on the bottom right-hand corner? It's on every page. It just stood out when I was reviewing the document. It may be nothing, and
Perhaps
it's okay.
that's a question of MNP.
Okay. My last question.
It's just a template.
Okay. And thank you. And my last question is just this discussion about Maple. And I know the report from staff talks about the Dufferin project. What's the Maple project and why is it in this report?
So it's a similar project to Dufferin that was paralleled at the same time. And in the end of June, when we became aware of what had actually happened, we had concerns that it had happened at Maple as well. And so we included that in the MNP mandate. And likewise, as we continued to go through internally, as we got access into documents that had been locked down and other things, that's when we said, okay, we need to go back 5 years and do everything we've done for the city to ensure that we disclose everything. And not to take any more time, but what was very, as we were going through this process, at one point, we had it up on a screen. And when we took the back to 5 years, the June 2022 date was kind of almost in the midpoint. And we had red and green. Red meant altered, green meant clear. So for a 5-year period, everything was green before that date.
One other question. MNP talked about processes being in place but not documented. How's that? How can the two things exist? Or how can the two statements exist? How can there be a process if it's not documented?
We were a company that started small and grew both with organic growth and acquisition. And our processes in place were fine for the business we were running at that time. And right in around that 22 period is we had done 3 acquisitions kind of back to back. And our processes, although they were there, they weren't documented, but it was probably a time when we should have brushed up on those for sure. I mean, it happens, but I would say it was our growth, the rate of our growth that would be the issue there.
Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you, Councillor Holyday. Other questions of the deputy? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Beswick, thank you for being here and presenting. Can you help me to understand your trajectory in this space? Tell us about you.
In the infrastructure rehabilitation space?
Yeah, like I'm reading all these reports.
Yep.
And you're here as the CEO. I'd like to understand how you progress through this process.
It's not my background. I'm actually an electrician.
Okay.
And spent years in that. About 10, 12 years ago, I was watching the industry because I found it a very interesting industry and what the future would look like for it. And we did a small acquisition of a company at that time. And through that, we have, as the industry's grown, we've grown with it organically, but we also have acquired others to increase our size.
Got you. Thank you. That's helpful. Good. So can you then tell me, with respect to the agreement that you had in place with your VP, that allowed for this 2.25 percentage of charge or changeover orders, is that standard in the industry?
So it's actually a bonus tied to performance. Those are standard in our industry and many industries. The intent of this, and I might be going into this, so you haven't asked, so stop me if you like. The intent of it was quite simple. On these projects, especially the ones like Dufferin and Maple, when we get the designs from them and when they're tendered, because of what's involved, everything's underground. The normal rule of thumb is they're probably only 75% designed. So you're going to have changes coming up. Now, what I've found in the many years I've been in these types of businesses, not just the sewer rehab, is if you don't price your changes properly, you lose money. And there's a lot of companies in there that fall under that. And I've always been aware of that, and I've seen it. Also, timing is a huge issue, which I'm sure your staff that run these projects for you tell you. It may take months to get approvals and have the details in place. This, while that's happening a lot of the time, is borne on the contractor to absorb that cost, that delay cost. So the thought process in this was not to commit a fraud. It was not an upsell. It was to put proper oversight on our team of project managers to make sure our pricing was accurate, compliant, and we were getting the flow of funds quickly so we weren't in a negative position.
Gotcha.
That was why we did it.
Gotcha. So can you then help me to understand, sir? You mentioned that this was actually a bonus, correct?
Correct.
That's what you said. All right. So how many employees, how many of your project managers or project coordinators also had a bonus? Do they have contractual agreement that provided them with a bonus, or was this a specific static situation where only this employee received a bonus?
So, a bit of a story there. In my history, I'm a believer of a bonus system that's discretionary. And my thought process on that is I want people to be paid what they want to be paid and what they're happy to be paid. It's worked well. This particular person came to me, and this was in 2022, and he had done a very good job for us up until that point. And what was happening in the industry, and I think your own staff had seen this, it was after COVID, people were trying to steal people. The money was being thrown around in crazy ways. And he came to me, and he said he had 2 job offers. Again, we had just done these acquisitions and were growing the business. And he actually, his first ask was he wanted equity in my company. That was a non-starter. He then came back with different plans that he thought would work, and I was kind of holding my ground to what I believed in. And in the end of the day, he came with this one. We were looking at it and what actually needed to be done and what his role between our management team, that if we could have eyes effectively on that, probably not a bad play.
So thank you for that, sir. But was he the only person getting this type of bonus?
That's correct.
In your organization?
Sorry, yes, that's correct.
So he was the only...
Yeah, everybody else discretionary.
Right, okay. So the value that he brought and the expertise that he brought to you, you felt that the salaries that he was being paid was not sufficient based on his demand for a piece of your company. You felt that a bonus system was in order to retain him in your organization. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So help me to understand then, sir. With respect to your understanding of the industry and the subcontractors, how aware were you with respect to the charges or the change orders? Where were you, or were you involved? Did you understand the discrepancies with respect to the values that were being charged by your subcontractor and the values that your company then assigned to your client, in this case is the city?
No, I wasn't involved in that. I didn't get involved in anything to really do with change orders unless there was a problem and they needed me to help. And normally a problem would be more about timing of approval.
Okay, I think I'm at my 5 minutes, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I'm going to ask online Councillor Cheng and Councillor Crisante. Do you have questions of the deputant? Councillor Cheng, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Bestfee, for being here today. I'm wondering, I guess further to Councillor Thompson's questions, are there any other staff members currently under a change order incentive program?
No.
No. Have you hired a third party to assess the controls that have been instated to verify if they work?
We have put them into place, and we have had discussions with our auditors, who will be in the next few weeks or a month. We wanted to give it a run to make sure the staff were up on it.
Councillor, if I may, one of the reasons that we're making the recommendation of allowing for a temporary 6-month suspension as opposed to the full 5 years is to allow for KPMG to come in to test those audits as an external auditor, to test those new procedures and protocols and ensure that they are working and make recommendations, and obviously for allow them to finalize their report.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Mr. Bresner, the question was to Mr. Beswick.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Will the company be pressing charges to the staff that has been caught with doing these overcharges?
From what I understand, that is not our call. Our call is to provide the documentation, and then those decisions will be made.
Mm-hmm.
And as we said, that had been reported initially, and we would hand over the reports, and then they would make their own determination on that.
So KPMG reporting letter indicates overbillings have been potentially identified on other city projects involving capital sewer. Are you confident that KPMG will not find any further overbillings based on your audit?
We've done a 5-year sweep of everything we've done with the City of Toronto. We are more than confident that what's found is found. I'm not sure when that KPMG statement was made, whether it may have been made before they got the second report on, I believe, November 14th.
And the city reached out to Capital Sewer in December 2024. And I think what I've heard is that you weren't very clear about what the city was communicating and therefore did not commence an audit until July 2025. Can you explain, please?
Yes, absolutely. The letter in December of 2024 was the standard contract terminology asking for certain audit rights. And those audit rights were provided in accordance with the contract. In December, there was no indication in that letter that there was any concern or any investigation. If we had gotten the same letter that we got in May, we would have acted the same way that we did when that all came about. So the December letter was more of a standard letter. It didn't give us much, and we just answered it and responded to it in accordance with the contract.
There wasn't a red flag that went up with the
No,
December
it wasn't a red flag letter.
Okay. And with regard to the proposed 5-year suspension, and I'm hearing, you're requesting a 6-month suspension pending the completion of KPMG findings. What do you think the consequence for something like this should be?
Sorry, can you clarify just the consequence portion of it for me?
Yeah, so what do you think a consequence should be when the city, as you know, our taxpayers don't like paying property taxes, don't like it when money is not well handled by our city. And so I'm just wondering, in this situation, in light of our policies and bylaws and the importance of maintaining trust with the public, what do you think is a consequence that would be effective in communicating trust to the city while also dealing with what has happened here?
Well, first off, I mean, this has been identified and confirmed as the act of one individual and is not reflective of the ideals of this company. Full restitution has been made. We've taken this very serious. We've gone and done a 5-year forensic audit to give the city comfort that this is not who we are. We, in cases like this, like what I've learned through this process, unfortunately, is senior level fraud is not uncommon within the corporate world and government world. I mean, there's a lot of people that's where they make their living on it. And by that, I mean the professionals that, like we have today. I haven't seen, you know, there's a recent case just last week. Molson Coors, a $20 billion company trading on the TSE and the New York Stock Exchange, had a senior executive come up with a invoice fabrication scam that lasted for 3 years. I should say alleged. That lasted for 3 years and stole $9 million. They didn't fire 600 people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Chang. Councillor Crisanti, do you have questions of the deputant?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just have a couple of clarifications, if I may. So thank you for coming out this morning. And so let me just start with, as soon as I joined, I heard a comment that you made with respect to $6 million more in costs than the lowest bidder. And I believe that's how I picked up your comment. Can you tell me in the context that you said that in and what your point you were making on that?
That relates to, since the suspension, the tenders that have gone out whereby we would be low bid and you have to go to the second bidder, and I think it's 6.6 million.
Oh, so that's the gap between what you would have been and
to second bidder.
The second bidder. Next point, you mentioned that there's only one person receiving bonuses, and then you added to that that everyone else was discretionary. I didn't understand the context of that particular point when I think you just again reiterated that this is the act of only one individual.
Sorry, the act of the details provided in the KPMG or the MNP report state that their conclusion is one individual. It's a responsibility of one individual. I think the question was on the bonuses, was a percentage bonus on anything? And what I said is currently there's nobody, and that there is a bonus program, but it's a discretionary bonus program. So it's not tied to anything. It's tied to what we believe the performance is.
So there is a mechanism in place to receive bonuses through the change order program?
No.
No, there isn't. Okay. But I thought I heard that the bonuses are from the change order program.
No, just the one individual had that in place. That was the only time, and it doesn't exist any longer.
So it was the policy of one individual. Okay. And again, to reiterate, the act of one individual. What checks and balances? Oh, well, I guess the answer is evident. There were no checks and balances for this one individual. When change orders were issued, no second sign off, no second set of eyes.
There were checks and balances, but what he did is he used his position to bypass them.
And no one caught up to the fact that they were being bypassed, and those individuals that would normally review a change order were not consulted.
So he would normally have been the second sign off. There would have been a project manager sign off first. He would do the second sign off. What he did is he did everything himself and kept it away from both his project team, and he would for example, where it should have been caught is the change order, when the change orders approved, sent to the project manager would then send out the components to purchasing to have their either contract revisions done or purchase orders issued. That then gets entered into our system, so now our accounts payable team and our accounting team have full visibility on it. What he would do is he would actually, and I believe it's in the M&P report, he actually would take the original document that was unaltered over to purchasing and have them issue the revision based on that. And that's where the breakdown was.
So at the end, at the end of that process, his process, how does he get that the money redirected to himself? How does that happen? So
I believe it was quarterly. He would they would keep track of the change orders that were done in that quarter and billed and paid, and then the percentage would apply to that.
The percentage applies to that, and somebody cuts him a check for X number of dollars as a result of that percentage.
Correct.
Calculated.
Correct.
And they sign those checks, no questions asked? I gather not.
Well, no, like it was more than just a check, as I said. There would be a document which would show the changes that had been done in that time period and paid. But we didn't know, I mean, that document doesn't tell us they're falsified change order. It's a summary.
Thank you. I believe I read in the report, last question, my time's up, that the overbilling was not detected by the city's contract administrator.
Our understanding until very recently was there was a call to the fraud hotline.
All right, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Councillor Crisanti.
Point of order, Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Holiday.
I know it's unusual, but I did want to ask for a second round. I just had a couple of really technical questions.
Okay, I'm going to get my questions in first.
Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Everybody's okay with the second round? The step in? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Beswick, can you explain what's your role with Capital Sewers Incorporated?
I'm the owner and president.
You're the owner and president?
Yes.
Okay. And can you explain to me, so when I go on the website, so there's Capital Sewers Incorporated, there's a number of different associated companies, and then there's the Capital Infrastructure Group. Is that the owner of?
That's the parent.
That's the parent of all the companies?
Correct.
And are you the owner of that parent?
Correct.
You're the owner of the parent as well? Okay. I'm just, how long have you been in business?
I've been in business as a...
Sorry, let me rephrase that. How long has Capital Infrastructure Group been in business?
Over 20 years.
Like 2000?
Yeah, early 2000s. Yeah.
Okay. And Capital Sewer Incorporated?
That would have been the first, yes.
Okay. And then you created these other companies and created the Capital Infrastructure Group?
Correct.
So it's like a holding company?
That's right. As we acquire that, they would be put under that umbrella.
Okay. And then, so the finances at the Capital Sewer Incorporated, so there's generally accepted accounting principles. You must have an auditor that reviews everything every year?
That's correct.
And they never caught any of this?
No, but I think if you actually take the time frame and you take the value and...
So I'm not asking, I'm asking, so your accountants and your auditor never caught any of this?
No.
And you have an annual audit?
Correct.
And they never caught any of this?
No.
Okay. And then I'm trying to understand, you said in the response time, so in our report from the city, it said it took your company almost 8 months to respond. And you're saying you responded right away?
Yeah, I don't agree with that statement at all.
Okay. And why is that?
Because the December letter is a contract letter, standard terminology that asked for audit rights and for no reason, but that was responded to in accordance with the contractual requirements.
So you
And so-
disagree that so you think you responded right away?
I know in December we responded to that right away, but I also know that when it was May 5th when we actually received the April 25th letter, that actually told us that there was an investigation and a problem. So that to me is when it started.
So up until that point, you didn't think you had any issues or concerns?
No, like I had said in my deputation, we had received the December letter, and from what there is being said now, that's from March of 2024 when they say they identified this until pretty much 1 year, we had been given $6 million in change orders, and there was never a question. So that let us, like, there was no signs of anything in that there was something happening that was of concern, even with the December letter. Like I said, it was a section out of the contract that they were doing that we've seen these before. We answer them.
Okay. And then, so the other thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is you keep referring to one person did this, that it's all the fault of one person. But you've made references in your comments to there's a project manager. You made a reference about a project team. You made another reference about an accounting team. All in this that this one person circumvented. So I'm having trouble wrapping my head around the fact that it's one person when you've made multiple references to project manager, project team, and accounting team. How do you reconcile all of that?
So in the MNP report, it does identify only two.
No, sorry, I'm asking about your comments.
I'm going to tie them back in. I think it'll make more sense. It identifies that two project managers working under this person may have known about what he was doing. But there's no conclusive evidence of that. What the accounting team really, they were provided with the data from him to issue the documents. He would have given them the old unaltered quote to issue the contracts or purchase orders. They would have, they've got the information, it all matches up, so it's going to go through accounting based on that. What he would do is he would, as I said, instead of handing everything over to the project management team, and I think that's where I referenced it, where they should be doing that and dispersing it, he would hold that back and not let them do it. He would do it himself. That's where he could circumvent others not knowing.
But shouldn't there be somebody, so you have a contract with the city of Toronto for a certain amount of dollars, and you have subcontractors. So you have to pay the subcontractors. You're receiving money from the city of Toronto. Is there not somebody in your department, your legal department, that should have said, hey, we have a contract for X number of dollars. We see an issue here. Even that's basic. You don't have anything like that?
Well, we have that, but he was circumventing it.
All right. Okay, that's the end of my time. Sorry, Councillor Holliday, you wanted a second round?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was an earlier statement that there was a bid made and that your bid was $6 million lower than the next bid. And so that costed the city. Did I hear that roughly correct?
That wasn't one project.
Okay.
That would be a number of projects.
Could you, when were those?
Those have been during the suspension. So from the end of June.
So from the end of June, you bid on projects and your bids were $6 million lower than the second.
Correct.
You were bidding on projects while you were suspended? Do I understand that correctly?
We were bidding on projects because our affiliates weren't suspended at the time.
I see.
So the affiliate was.
Thank you. You may or may not be able to answer this, and I respect that. You just let me know what you can talk about. But I wanted to understand or get a sense of the salary and compensation of an individual in this position. Can you tell me, even generally, what a person of this level and of this responsibility earns, and what percentage is base salary versus bonus?
So typically, a senior person like that, you're based on the company's performance, and let's look at discretionary reference as well, but you'd be in the 200 base range, and on a senior level, you would be looking at that again in a bonus.
So the base range, regardless of how they perform, assuming they stay with you, is about 200, and then they have a variable compensation of 200.
Roughly, yes.
And how much of the variable compensation of 200 would have been attributable to the 2.25% on change orders, which is very computational, versus, I think you said your philosophy was a discretionary award?
Correct. So with him, he wouldn't get a discretionary, he would just get his percentage.
I see. And so his percentage was in the vicinity of 200,000?
I don't recall the exact number. I would say a bit less than that.
Fine, but that order of magnitude. And so if you bring this back to what is the total delta that you were able to find on deviation on change orders? Was it 1.7 something?
The city, for the city of Toronto, it's 1.7, correct?
So on $1.7 million, how much was his financial benefit?
Well, hold on a second. That's 1.7 million just in discrepancy.
Discrepancy.
So you could have had 7 or 8 million in change orders.
Right.
So
And I just want to make sure I calculate this out or understand this out. So $1.7 million in delta that he got 2.25% on. So whatever the math is to that, that's tens of thousands, right?
right.
So he was making 400, in the vicinity of 400, or a person makes in the vicinity of 400, and they did all of this for a few tens of thousands of dollars extra. That's the sort of broad takeaway that I'm understanding.
Your takeaway is 100% accurate. It's mind-boggling, some of the things that were done.
And yet the city was overbilled millions of dollars. And where did that money that money ended up in the accounts of the corporation? This individual didn't have access to that, did they? Just make sure I didn't miss something gross here.
No, 1.7 million would have been that over a 3-year period.
Okay.
And yes, it would have ended up in our accounts. But it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Our revenues are fairly significant, and when you take that amount over a 3-year period, it's not like it just all of a sudden. I would put it this way: it's not like we built 25,000 widgets,
yep,
and we shipped them out, and we got paid for 40. So 40,000 widgets. We would pick that up in the construction business, in the way the progress billings work. And I mean, this might be an answer that to a previous question that I had. You're dealing with what's called a payment certificate, which is a voluminous document, number of line items. So for example, in a change order, if we take the change order number 3, I think it is for Dufferin, where it was a $1.3 million change with an $800,000 delta, that change order actually sits, I believe, on the payment certificate as a $400,000 change order. That's it, just one line. So that's where, and I think that might have been the question earlier on the billings, why they wouldn't have been necessarily picked up, because that's not the way they're done.
Mr. Chair,
Last question, Councillor.
if I can ask the last one, there's an example in the report where it's a really gross amount. There was a change in the quote. The city's total price was $472, but the difference was $872. Right, so like a very, very large delta.
Right.
And you'd mentioned that project managers were involved. Is it not a reasonable, or why would it not be reasonable that somebody would detect something of that magnitude of deviation?
So that was the one I just spoke of, actually, where
Okay.
the actual change order, the approved change order, is actually 400,000. So it's made up of a number of different components. So there was that additional part, the 1.3 million. There was 2 or 3 more additional parts, but then there was a big credit of deleted work. Net effective is your change order on your payment certificate is 400,000 roughly. If I remember the numbers correctly, I will stand corrected on it. But these are the nuances we're dealing with. It's not like those numbers are out in front of you, jumping out at you, just by way of the way the projects work. And that's not our controls, that's just the way the industry works.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Holliday. Other questions? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, just one further question. Mr. Beswick, I understand that the municipality of the City of Toronto is not the only municipality that's actually seeking to have a ban on your company's service. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What is, or how many other municipalities are, in fact, involved in those types of actions as it relates to your firm?
Just one.
Right. And how long have you or your companies been doing business with that municipality?
At least 12 years.
Okay, thank you. I don't know. I'd like to know. I don't know if you can tell me because of whether or not it's a privacy matter, but if you could, it would be very helpful to share. Can you perhaps give us a flavor as to the rationale and or the transactional activities that are taking place with that municipality? And are you able, or you're at liberty to provide us with the name of that municipality?
Yeah, it's Region of York. It's restitution has been paid on that. It was around 380,000, so much smaller than what was here. And we have been in dialogue with them.
Gotcha. And the relationship and or activities and or matters relating to your company as it related to that municipality, was this the same individual tied to that?
100%.
See. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Crescent here, Councillor Chang, further questions of the deputant? Nope. Okay, thank you. Mr. Beswick, I just wanted to ask, so you've got an accounting team, you've got project managers, and you're explaining to Councillor Holliday you have money coming in and you have money going out, and it's hard to keep track of everything. I don't want to sound sarcastic, but are you using computer software to manage all your books, or is this all on paper?
No,
I don't understand. Like, friends of mine in the accounting world and in businesses, they use software. They keep track of all their money coming in, money coming out. If they had a discrepancy annually of $300,000 even on one contract, that would stand out pretty quickly. I don't understand the mechanisms, checks and balances in your business that don't catch that.
So, yes, we're very computerized. And again, we've got to go back. I think it's just an understanding of actually how the system works.
Well, you explained how the system works to my colleague. I'm trying to understand the checks and balances of it that don't catch something like this.
Okay, but the check and balance is what he was bypassing. That's what he did. And it was his check and balance that he took the other people out of.
But my understanding of the computer software, computer accounting software, there's multiple people that have access to it, that it has checks and balances built into it so that one person can't circumvent the system. So I'm trying to understand the checks and balances in your system, they don't seem to be working.
Okay, and I would explain it this way. The checks and balances within the accounting system were working and were effective. The project management system isn't tied to the accounting system. So it was the breakdown between those two systems. Now, maybe it might help if I just explain what we have implemented and what we've done, because I think
No,
that'll...
sorry, I'm only interested in why we're here today, not how. So you didn't have checks and balances in place, and this came to our attention in part through a call from the fraud and waste hotline, and we hired KPMG that looked at your books, and they came up with, KPMG has confirmed that there has been intentional overbilling of at least $1.1 million. So I'm trying to understand in your system and your team how that doesn't get caught.
Again, the billing portion is done on a document called a payment certificate, and all these projects are done that way. That is a comprehensive document. It's not necessarily our document. It depends on the contract. A lot of the times it's the city's document or their consultant's document. That document is what generates your billings. That document does not break down every element. That document is managed by the project management team to get the billing, the payment certificate approved. The invoice is then generated by the accounting team. So they don't necessarily have the visibility to each and every change order that the project management team's working on. Where that's picked up is when it goes in for contract revision or purchase orders. That then ties it all back into the system, and that's what matches. And that's where you would pick this up. But that's what was being done was the project management team had the altered document that he had done, and then he would take over the original document himself and have the contract revisions done, which then took the accounting portion out of it. If that makes more sense.
All right, thank you very much. All right, our next deputant is... Our next deputant is Brian Ratchford from Capital Sewer Services Incorporated. Morning, sir. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Good morning, members of General Government Committee. My name is Brian Ratchford, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at Capital Sewer Services. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am a civil engineering technologist that has the opportunity to build my career at Capital over the past 24 years. Starting with a team of 8. Today, I would like to share with you the type of work that I, along with now over 600 employees, perform across the GTA. The services that Capital provides to the City of Toronto are critical to everyday needs in residences, businesses, and industries across the city. We compete for the opportunity to perform highly specialized and unique repairs and maintenance in the city's aging underground infrastructure through using a trenchless technology known as cured-in-place pipe. This innovative process minimizes the need for costly excavation of roadways, sidewalks, or transit tracks. Once installed and processed from existing access points, this new seamless pipe within a pipe extends the serviceability of the life by another 50 years. We are one of a handful of contractors that offer this service, and the only contractor that does it through a vertically integrated operation. It is that level of service that has been used by the city to address high-risk, high-profile repairs to critical infrastructure that often pose technical challenges or difficult-to-access underground piping. A number of these high-profile repairs are performed on an emergency basis and often awarded to Capital after others have refused to take the repairs on. Capital has grown to become one of the largest providers of treasures technology services in Canada and is currently working across 6 provinces. Competitors such as In Situ Form, Aquatech, GFL, Clearwater Structures, and more recently, Michaels Canada, operate within a narrow service band, relying heavily on ancillary services being provided by subcontractors. This takes time, money, and slows down the ability to react when needed. At a minimum, our facility in Woodbridge stocks close to 5 kilometers of varying diameter tubes, raw materials, and equipment ready to accommodate potential emergencies throughout the city as they arise. This ability has allowed Capital to address no fewer than 12 emergency situations that the city has faced in the last 6 months alone, including, most recently, a nearly collapse of a 1.2 meter diameter brick sewer constructed in 1886, running under the Don Valley Parkway. As one of the busiest transportation corridors in the city, the DVP carries over 135,000 cars per day. Last month, Capital was contacted by the city with an urgent request to complete an essential sewer rehab, one that has already begun to fail, causing sinkholes to develop under the Richmond Avenue ramp, the very ramp that is under repair in order to provide access for the upcoming FIFA Cup in 2026. The city reached out to industry competitors, only to find that one contractor that not only accepted the challenge, but pulled resources from other sites across the province to immediately mobilize and prevent failure and restore the integrity of the 8-meter deep sewer. That is the level of commitment and service that Capital Sewers provides to the city, allowing the city to secure the safety of the drivers and the use of the DVP. In my 24 years at Capital, we have had the opportunity to participate in hundreds of emergency repairs and production contracts within the city. We take pride in our performance and have yet to accept a challenge that we could not overcome. Our work is not glamorous. It is in many cases out of sight, out of mind, and we take pride in our performance and in being able to provide solutions to the city when others are incapable of providing the same. No other competitor in the industry can accommodate the speed of execution of critical jobs that Capital can. We continue to invest in our people, to take pride in the fact that our competition continues to approach our staff, unsuccessfully trying to entice them to join their ranks. To date, not one of our team has taken the competition up on their offer, demonstrating the level of commitment we develop as an organization and that the city continues to benefit from. Our industry is a dangerous one that demands excellence in execution, demands highly trained and motivated staff, and that sometimes requires out-of-the-box thinking. That is not a skill that many possess. It cannot always be taught. It can only be developed over a career of accepting challenges that come our way, by accepting difficult and demanding requests for help when it is at the least convenient for us to do so. That is what we have spent our entire career doing and what the city has come to rely on. Our greatest assets are our people, the over 600 staff that continue to operate and contribute to our success, which in the end is a result of their dedication hand in hand with our core values. It is that ongoing contribution that leads us to the opportunities and challenges provided by our clients, the largest of which is the City of Toronto. We are here today as a result of the conduct of a former senior member of our team. His conduct is not indicative of the culture of our firm's leadership and 600 hardworking, dedicated staff, some of which have chosen to join us here today. We are hopeful that this person's conduct does not affect the livelihood of that staff, the same staff that conducted service to the city during COVID, and that mobilizes the site in all conditions, day or night as needed, often at our own family's expense. We trust that this person's conduct does not affect the livelihood of any of the 600 committed families potentially.
Mr. Radford, if you wrap up, please.
Okay. Potentially destroying our unique organization. Thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions of the deputant? Councillor Chang or Councillor Crisanti, questions of the deputant? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Our next deputant is Robert Brooks, International Union of Operating Engineers. Morning, Mr. Brooks. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Good morning, councilors and General Government Committee. My name is Bob Brooks. I'm a sector coordinator from the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 793. I'm responsible for members and contractors working under sewer and water main and utility sectors. Local 793 is a trade union representing over 2,100 members in the construction, industrial and mining sectors in the province of Ontario and the territory of Nunavut. Local 793 members build the infrastructure that keeps Ontario moving across the sectors, including roads, sewer and water, residential, the power sector, pipeline, and ICI. I'm here today in response to the proposed 5-year ban being considered by Toronto City Council against the Capital Group of companies. 5 Capital Group of companies are in collective bargaining relationship with Local 793. They currently employ over 60 of our members who are highly skilled and specialized in their field of expertise. The service that Capital provides for the City of Toronto through highly skilled members of Local 793 are critical to the everyday needs of residents, businesses, and industries across the city. This includes highly specialized and unique repairs and maintenance to the city's aging underground infrastructure, through use of trenchless technology known as cured-in-place pipe, like Brian had talked about earlier. Capital is one of only a handful that offers this service. As a result of Capital's unique technology and expertise, should the City of Toronto institute a 5-year plan against Capital, 60 skilled members from Local 793 will be out of work and unlikely to find equivalent employment with other signatory companies. This would be a massive blow to these 60 operating engineers who rely on employment to support their families, through no fault of their own, find themselves facing employment uncertainty. Good-paying union jobs need to be preserved, and hardworking skilled tradesmen should not be penalized or lose their livelihood. There are many other options available to the City of Toronto to ensure oversight and compliance short of a 5-year ban on Capital, and these should be explored to help preserve the high-paying union capital jobs Capital provides. Local 793 stands with our members who will be directly impacted by the ban on Capital and requests the City of Toronto and its committee consider the devastating impact this loss of work will have on real hard-working skilled tradesmen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions of the deputant? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Crisanti. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your presentation. And so you just at the very end of your statement alluded to, many other options, and there are jobs and at stake here, and families, that through Capital Sewers, through the organization that it's employing over 600 people, 60 of which are under Local 793, correct, or are there more?
Correct. I believe there's about 60, depending on the month.
Mm-hmm. And so you're saying because of the actions of one, that there should be other options considered. Could you elaborate on that? And what other options you feel, from where you're sitting, could be considered that will be effective?
Well, with this just being one person, I think, like they were saying, I think 6 months to get, this audit finished and to get their, applications of how they're going to fix this, moving forward. I think that would be a better alternative.
All right, pending the results of those audits.
Correct.
All right, thank you, Bob, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crisanti. Sorry, Mr. Brooks, there's a couple more questions, I think.
Oh, sorry.
One question created more. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation, sir. I don't know what the decision will be shortly, but there'll be a decision. If the decision is such that that there is there's support for staff's recommendation, And there is efforts made to address the issues that you've raised with respect to your members, because obviously they've done nothing wrong, as you pointed out. I mean, these are talented people that do amazing work. I mean, I refer to them often as heroes of our city that are unsung because of the things that they do and the benefits that we receive through their hard work and so on. If there are ways to protect the workers, would that be amenable to you as such? And I don't know what those ways are, but we've actually gone through some processes before that helps us to respond to the needs of the people who are not blamed as part of this process. I'm just wondering if that would be amenable to you.
Absolutely. Keep them going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Sorry, Mr. Brooks, can you just clarify for me? The owners mentioned there's 600 employees with Capital Sewer Services Incorporated, and you said that 60 of your members that belong to that company are doing City of Toronto work?
I believe so. We've got 60 within the group of Capital.
Okay.
That they're
Those are the
remitting
men and
for.
women here this morning?
Correct, yeah. There are.
They're the 60?
No. There's I don't know how many unions they have, but I know for us, most of our companies are consisted of laborers and operators. And I represent the operator.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to bring this into committee, so we're on questions of staff, and the KPMG auditors are here as well. Questions of staff? Councillor Thompson?
Sure. Thank you. You know, I think I'd like to ask, my question would be first to water. So Mr. Geronimo is here. Spoke to him a short time ago. Mr. Geronimo, I can't see behind me, so I'm presuming you're back there somewhere. Just let me know when you're at a mic. Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. DiGeronimo, your department benefits from the work that the Capital Group or Sewer Group does for us. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, yes, we have been working with Capital Sewer and some of the affiliated companies for at least a couple decades.
And can you tell us the magnitude of the type of work that they're engaged in terms of helping your department, in essence, to then help the City of Toronto and the residents and visitors to the city?
And Mr. Chair, just give you a quick summary, just the 2025 year, we've entered into at least 10 contracts, 6 of them off a roster system for emergency responses, and then 4 of them are standing contracts. 2 of them deal with sewer relining and repair work, and 2 also deal with water work issues that one of their affiliate companies. The order of magnitude would have been between all of those contracts for Toronto Water around contract value about over $50 million. And
you would agree with me, through you, Mr. Chair, that this company and their workers, they do great work. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, the advice given to me by Toronto Water staff is that we've had no performance issues with the quality of the work provided by the staff. They work very closely with Toronto Water staff on many emergency breaks. They meet all of our quality standards, and there's been no performance issues brought to my attention.
Right, and that's not the matter in question before us. It's
That's
not
correct.
about the quality.
We do have contractor performance evaluation tools that we sometimes use in suspensions.
Right.
This is not the case in this situation.
Got you. Those are all my questions for Mr. DiGeronimo. Questions for Ms. Sharkey and our Auditor General. I guess, Ms. Sharkey, can you just remind me again the objective and goals of your office as a Chief Procurement Officer on behalf of the City of Toronto as it relates to all contracts and contractual obligations and ensuring those contracts meet the specification as to the letter of the law?
It's Jennifer Graham Harkness. I'm going to take that question because
Sure. Thanks.
contract management is the responsibility of
The auditor.
of
Okay, great.
engineering and construction services.
Thank you.
And so we have professional staff who monitor the performance of a contract and verify that the work that we've contracted for is performed according to both our standards as well as looking at change order and the way that they are assembled.
On the piece, as you just described with respect to the performance and the work that is being done through the contract, that's one element, but also the actual financial piece, that there's a requirement then that to ensure the integrity of the process, that the contractual agreement that's in place, and if there are amendments to or change to the contract, change to the monetary amounts, that there's an integrity that's required as part of our standard requirement. Would that be correct?
That's correct. We verify that we make efforts to verify that when changes occur, that the quotations given to us for the work are what we seem to be reasonable, and we verify the information provided to us by the contractor.
Right. And so I'm running out of time, but I think I'm going to ask you this question because it perhaps may require a longer answer. And this is both maybe for Ms. Sharkey. As part of the fraud, the fraud and waste hotline, we get thousands of calls on an annual basis?
We'll refer that to the Auditor General.
Okay.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
All right. And we are required to investigate each and every one of those. I guess you have some criteria in terms of determining on the investigative process?
Through the chair, we look at each and every complaint that we receive, and then based on our triage, we decide whether to refer that to the division and for an investigation to be done.
And all of those process has been followed as it relates to this matter?
Yes, that's correct. So we did refer this to the division for investigation, and that's what they did.
Right. And so we have an outstanding report that will be coming. That's the KPMG report. What are we expecting with respect to anticipated finding from that? And why are we not actually dealing with this all in one, in that is the KPMG report and the other materials that we're looking at as part of this report?
I can speak to that. So the KPMG was hired to investigate the Dufferin project, and they have completed that work. They've looked at the Dufferin project, and they've established that there was at least $1.1 million in overbilling. The work that KPMG is going to do now is that given what we know, they are expanding their work to look at the extent of the overbuilding that may have occurred in other contracts. So we've established that the overbilling occurred, and now we're looking to see how much further it is into our process.
Got you. It was stated earlier that I think the owner of the company, Mr. Briswick, indicated that he was not in agreement with respect to the associated timelines that staff had put forward regarding notification. Can you maybe just comment on that, please? Because there's a discrepancy with respect to the timelines.
Last question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I can speak to that. So what occurred was our staff on the project raised concerns about the change orders and the value of those change orders and the potential for overbilling. And they proceeded with their investigations. And those investigations even included making phone calls to subcontractors. They were not able to get any information back that would validate those concerns. So following that, in December, we issued a letter requesting information from Capital Sewers. They provided a response to that. However, it did not include information about the subcontractor invoices. Instead, they made references to the fact that they didn't need to provide the information to us. And so we, again, pursued that further, and then through further pursuits, we again issued further letters for audit. It is not typical that we would issue letters requesting audit information.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Holyday, you have questions?
Thank you, Chair. And I don't know who answers this, if it's ECS or procurement. There was a statement earlier that there was about a $6 million difference between the next bid and this particular supplier. Could someone describe a little bit more about what all of these affiliates mean and who they do work with? And also what activity has occurred over the last 6 months, which I think would cover, I think there's 2 suspensions that are listed on the city's website. So how does all that come together so I understand what was meant by that?
Okay, through the chair, I may need a bit more clarification, but what I can say is what we all mean by that. Affiliated persons is, as defined by the bylaw, really about the controlling authority. In this instance, we did issue a first suspension to Capital Sewers only based on the information that we had in an interim report from KPMG. Following further discussion and further investigation, we determined that there was valid business risk to include these affiliated persons, so the additional companies, as part of the suspension. What occurred then is on October 17th, we suspended the rest of the affiliated companies. Therefore, it was Clean Water Works, and I'd have to look at the company, Utility Force, Capital Utility Services, Clean Water Works, and also the parent of the Capital Infrastructure Group. What was intended by the delta that they're talking about is we would have low bids, which we do publish, as well as all of the other bids. Now, in this case, all of these bids that I'm personally reviewing is bids that were received after October 17th for the affiliated company, which would have been suspended by that point. Now, we cannot validate the delta only because usually we do a what we call a UBA, unbalanced bid assessment, to ensure that the pricing that we've received is within line of our estimates. This was not completed because they were suspended, therefore were just considered non-compliant off the bat.
I want to make sure I understand that clearly. So bids came in. I'm not saying it was this. It all lines up to the $6 million, but bids continued to come in after October 17th?
Correct.
Is that typical?
No, it is not. If a company is usually suspended, we would not see bids from them since they are required to sign off on supplier code of conduct when they are submitting a bid, which includes declaring any potential conflicts as well as illegal activity and any items against the supplier code of conduct, such as overbilling.
So the supplier does a variety types, different types of work. We heard today about relining of sewers, and in the report, I think it talks about the Dufferin project, which I think was like a trunk sewer or like it was a different thing. It wasn't relining. How did staff determine that all of the affiliated entities needed to be included in the mix if the report before us is about Dufferin or one piece of business? And forgive me because I just don't know how the different companies relate to the different kinds of work that occurs at the city with the various departments.
Okay, we're tag teaming through the chair. I can speak to the affiliated component based on, and I'm just going to get the definition because I've not memorized this. The affiliated persons is everyone related to a supplier, including but not limited to employees, agents, representatives, organizations, bodies, or corporate societies, and firms, partnerships, associations, or persons or parent companies and subsidiaries, whether a party or wholly owned, as well as individual and directors, if directly or indirectly either one controls or has the power to control the other, or a third party has the power to control both. In this instance, all of these companies do report to one individual under their corporate profiles, which is the individual who is the head of Capital Source.
Okay. Last question on this. We've dealt with a different case at this committee fairly recently. Could you tell me what the supplier's options are in the future. Just based what I heard today is they were suggesting that a different period is required, or there were different actions that might trigger different points of reflection. Can the supplier appeal this if indeed this is what is decided by council?
So again, this is an accountability measure, not punitive. So what, in accordance with our bylaw, supplier can do is after half of the term has been fulfilled, they can submit a request to the city to come back and do work for us. At this point, we would put a report in back to council to get this eliminated and or not. They would have to come forward with proof that they have changed, their processes are effective, and that they're no longer a commercial or business risk to the city. So very feasible.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Holliday. Questions, Councillor Chang, Councillor Crisanti? Councillor Chang, I saw your hand first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I heard KPMG is here. Can I ask a question of KPMG?
Yes.
Thank you.
They're here.
So
and ready.
the report here says that overbillings have been potentially identified on other city projects involving capital sewer. Can you speak to why you feel this is potentially possible and how long it will take to confirm?
Yes, through the chair. Because of the timing of different reports from MMP and KPMG, I know it adds a little element to the confusion of things. Right now, the estimate of the misquoted amount versus the actual amount paid to subcontractors is in the neighborhood of 1.8 million. That's made up of the two projects you've heard about today, the Maple and Dufferin project, plus projects with two other capital companies. One of them is called Utility Force, and I think the other one is Waterworks. Those additional projects have been identified in the most recent MNP report, which I understand has been circulated. And as of right now, at the time, the KPMG report, the interim report that you received, we had not received that supplemental report, which came out in approximately mid-November. And so essentially what's happened is this differences have been identified across three capital companies, totaling about 1.8 million. KPMG has been tasked with going through, verifying the amounts from a quantification perspective and looking at whether there's other amounts that aren't captured that should be. So that's where things currently stand, if that helps.
And how long will it take to complete this audit?
I believe it'll take a number of months to work through questions, reviewing documents, and following up on things.
Thank you. My next question is for Ms. Sharkey. Capital Sewers says they misunderstood communications received in December 2024 and thought it was just a regular request. Can you explain how such a misunderstanding can happen, that they seem to not have known that there was a more serious investigation happening and therefore did not start their own audit until July of 2025?
I am going to pass this over through the chair to Jennifer.
So through the chair, so we had initially began asking questions about the change orders and the value of the change orders many months earlier. The letter that they received was under the terms of the contract. There are specific references where we made a request for information for quite a number of change orders that involved subcontractors. I'm not sure why the contractor would have thought that this was a normal or typical process, but it is not a typical process for us to issue letters of this kind.
Thank you. And what other types of consequences are available in this situation? 5 years and the impact on 600 jobs. It does, have some cause for concern. I'm just wondering, would there be an opportunity for Capital Sewers to pay for an independent monitor for a period of time, or a financial penalty rather than a full 5-year suspension?
Through the chair. At this point, based on our bylaw and a procedure, we are focusing on the overbilling and the actions that we can take over this, which is a suspension for up to 5 years based on the situation that we are in. I believe we're already looking at holding back to make restitutions. So that will still occur. Truly, it is up to the will of council to make that determination. We provide the information that we have, and I do believe that we have plenty of justification behind our recommendation. We have done our due diligence with KPMG to come forward with this recommendation.
I have one final question.
Yep, go.
How
Sorry.
long do current contracts with Capital Sewers extend? So ones that we are not terminating and they've already won the bid, how long do those contracts extend to?
So the current contracts with engineering and construction services are nearing completion. So they're almost done. They're essentially complete. And there are 2 Toronto Water contracts that will be ending, one at the end of this year and the other towards the middle of next year. And then if, through the chair, if I can go back to the question about this capital program, we're not adjusting our capital program as a result of what's happened relative to Capital Sewers. We still have an enormous amount of work that will be tendered this year, that where we will need contractors and construction staff to perform. Our construction work we have a very robust program that will be coming out in the coming year.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Through Mr. Chair, just to correct the contract. So that's with Capital. As I mentioned, we have in Toronto Water contracts with affiliated companies too, which don't expire. So it's essentially there will be 4 contracts remaining in 2026, 3 of them expiring in June, and 1 of them expiring in September of 2026. All the other ones expire end of this month, December 31. So we added 10, as I mentioned, 6 will expire, just so you have accurate information.
Thank you. Those are the end of Councillor Cheng's questions. Councillor Crisanti, do you have questions of staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So just to follow up to what Mr. DiGeronimo was just stating right now, I'll start there. So I want to understand, Mr. DiGeronimo, what impact this suspension will have, and you started to allude to that just now. What is the impact that this suspension could have to the City of Toronto? And given the excellent performance that you indicated earlier with this company for more than 20 years?
Mr. Chair, the impacts that we've been analyzing in Toronto Water is we would have to start looking at, and we have started to look at changing some of the tender packages that we put out. Capital Sewer is a sizable firm, can handle larger contracts, so we've been looking at creating smaller contracts to put them out on the market, so to entice additional bidders. Those are the immediate impacts that we're looking at for the near term, new contracts that are going to be let and issued. We would continue to use the emergency repair and response contracts that we have until they expire, but we'd be looking at those procurement changes in 2026 as well. So that would continue for the next several months of looking at how do we restructure our bids.
How long has Capital Sewers been under suspension currently?
Through the chair, it's going to be 6 months as of December 30th of this year.
All right, because I heard earlier that they bidded on some work, and the lowest bid, there was a gap of $6 million between the lowest bid and their bid. How did that come to fruition?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So my understanding, it's not one bid, it is multiple bids that would have been received. We took a two-part approach to the suspension. Capital Sewer was suspended 6 months ago because that is the information that we had at that point through an interim KPMG report that they were the party most interested in. Following further investigation, the affiliated companies became of interest and therefore were suspended on October 17th, 2025. Following October 17th, 2025, we kept receiving bids from Clean Water Works, one of the affiliated companies, and I believe that's where the calculations would have come in. Unfortunately, we have not validated those bids because they would have been considered compliant and therefore disregarded.
And were you able to verify the comments in the report that it was only the act of one individual? And have there been any other issues as a result of this investigation that surfaced during this time?
Through the chair, the information that's available right now is that the scheme was centered around one senior former employee of Capital. As was highlighted by MNP, Ms. Legio in her presentation, there are some other former employees that appear to have known about the scheme. But the information we have right now from Capital, the extent that we've done it on the KPMG side, looking at documentation, it seems to be centered around this individual.
And the total amount of overbilling, I believe you indicated a few minutes ago that it's well in excess of 1.1 to date. It's, I believe, I heard a number of $1.8 million.
So, which I know is confusing because of the timing of various reports, including our report, which was October 31st. The 1.8 million is made up of Capital Sewers projects, waterworks, and utility force contracts, which are described in the MNP reports. There's two of them, one that's quite recent in November, and those there's a calculation of what we call the spread, which is the amounts that was put before the city for approval as change orders versus what was being paid or was ultimately quoted and was in many cases paid to subcontractors. So that spread is about 1.8 million. The actual overbilling is just a hair. It's actually not fully quantified in the most recent MNP report because they haven't traced all the payments at this point, but the overbilling is not dissimilar, very likely. And certainly in respect
Last question, Councillor.
Yeah, last question very quickly. Capital Sewers, so they've already committed to full restitution. Have they done that? Have they paid out?
So through the chair, the city has taken a set-off of the amounts that we believe are owed under the Dufferin project. We have not received full restitution for the remaining, my knowledge.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crisanti. I have a couple of questions. So the triggers that started all of this is kind of two-pronged. We have controls by the city, internal controls, and then our fraud and waste hotline. And then the report, it said fraud and waste hotline complaints. So there was more than one complaint from somebody in these companies that this was going on.
So through the chair, we understand that there were 3 fraud and waste complaints. We don't know who made those complaints.
But there's more than one.
Yeah, through the chair to add, there were 4 complaints that we received through the fraud and waste hotline, but due to confidentiality, I need to continue to keep those anonymous.
Okay, but it would be 4 people, or could be
4
one
separate
person that made
complaints.
multiple phone calls.
No, it was 4 separate complaints.
It was 4 separate complaints by people that probably worked in one of these companies.
4 separate complaints that appeared to be credible.
Okay, all right. And then KPMG, I wanted to ask you, so my accounting auditor friends, So there's gapping, which is the generally agreed accounting principles. I have that right?
Yes.
And then within gapping, if you have a glitch in your book, in a company's books, there's material and immaterial. And material, and they're both based on how big the issue is with the books.
Yes.
So material is a more serious matter with the financial accounting, is my understanding.
Yes. It's a materiality usually refers, as you referenced, I believe, Mr. Chair, the size of the variance that an external financial statement auditor will allow in error in the books in a particular area before they require adjustment.
Okay. And so the $1.8 million in this case would hit that materiality threshold.
I can't say what materiality would have been in the relationship Capital would have had with its external accountants, because that's a matter between them. The amount, to just make sure it's properly described, is something that built up over a number of years. So it would be extra amounts that Capital billed and collected from essentially based on the MMP report that I've read from 2022 on. So it would have hit 2022, 2023, all the way up to today, or to the point where it was discovered.
Okay. And is that so spread out over that number of years, 3 years, I guess? Is that something that their auditors should have caught? I've been in other instances, you know, the auditors come in, look at the book, say, hey, we have an issue here. The auditors, they write a letter, and within that letter, they're like, hey, you might have a problem here. You need to clean this up.
So auditors that are financial statement, there's many types of audit. There's audit of controls, just controls. There's audit of financial reporting and numbers. And part of the audit of, and I'm not an auditor, but I work in the space.
Oh, my apologies. I thought you were an auditor.
It's okay. I'm an ex-auditor. And I'm a forensic accountant. So I essentially, as part of the audit of financial statements, auditors will look at the internal controls surrounding the financial reporting process, which will include things like, are the accounts payable properly stated? Is the revenue the correct revenue? There's techniques and things that are used. And then there's this concept of materiality that applies on how deeply you look. And in this case, to the issue of controls, I couldn't say whether an accountant would have focused on these issues. Capital is a big company, and auditors tend to sample and look at things. And clearly, it sounds like they didn't detect the issue.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then to our Auditor General, so the amount of money that we're talking about, we have our supplier code of conduct and the safeguards. You feel it's an appropriate process that we're in now? It's hit that benchmark that there should be the recommendations before us today and not to wait.
So through the chair, the matter of discipline is a council decision with the management recommendation. What I can say is that we've had independent oversight in terms of the investigation that was led by the division together with KPMG. And I'm on the same page in terms of the progress to date that has been made and awaiting to receive the final report from KPMG.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I believe my time is up on mine, so we're going to, speakers on this item. Ask online. I'm going to ask online. Councillor Crescentia, Councillor Cheng, speakers. Councillor Cheng.
I'd like to move a motion to refer this to City Council. I feel that this is a very serious decision and would like to explore other ways of penalizing this company. Financial penalties, independent monitoring of their controls. I think that the consequences to 600 jobs is something that's very serious. At the same time, I do recognize that there were gaps in the response of the company, and certainly they could have been much more forthright from the very beginning. So I do think there should be a consequence, and I think that we just need to take a moment to consider also the financial consequences to our city, because they are a longstanding partner that does present a suite of services and expertise that we won't necessarily be able to replicate and pull out of a hat so quickly. So I do believe that we have to strike the right balance in terms of the consequences to the company as well as the consequences to our city. And so I think some further analysis is required, and I'm hopeful we can come up with something prior to City Council.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chang. Questions of the mover? So, Councillor Chang, I would like to ask what you intend, or so if this passed this morning, what you intend to achieve. Because we've heard from our staff, the auditors, KPMG, the owner of the company and the CFO both made presentations today. I'm trying to understand, if we defer this to City Council, what further information you think we're gonna get?
I would like to better understand the financial consequences to the city. While there is some assurance that there are other bidders, but financially it might be at a very different cost. So I think we need to better understand what those potential financial consequences are, along with what other kinds of penalties we can explore. While we have this bylaw, are there other ways that this one rogue employee and the failure of the corporation to monitor this high-level senior executive's actions, it is still one person's actions, and so I'd like to explore what other types of consequences in order to rebuild public trust could be in place that's not a 5-year suspension. So those are pieces of information that I'd like to have in order for council to make the best decision moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chang. Councillor Thompson, do you have questions of the mover?
I do, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Chang. Councillor Chang, I just want to make sure that I understand what you're doing. This is similar to what I did with Durban in the last company that we dealt with, somewhat similar. This is not a referral per se. It is to send the matter to council without making a decision. So in essence, without a recommendation vis-a-vis the staff recommendation. Is that what you're doing today?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. So it's not that we won't make a decision on it. It is that you wish to have the fullness of the council, which is the 25-member council plus the mayor, making the decision on this particular matter.
I believe that because there are 600 jobs that are on the line, that it is a very serious decision that we should all consider together.
Right. And so we may arrive at a decision which is analogous or similar to that of which the staff's recommendations reflect in this report. However, at this particular point in time, you're suggesting that the 5 of us shouldn't simply make this decision. In fact, council could overturn the decision if we were to make it in terms of agreeing with the staff recommendation here today, but you're suggesting that we should leave that until the matter goes to council to effectively make a council group decision because of the magnitude of this issue. Not that you're suggesting that the issues themselves within the report are not problematic, it's just that you believe that we should do it as a whole body.
Yes.
Okay.
That is my intention.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this is a very difficult decision in as much as we're tasked with the responsibilities of protecting the public interests. It appears that the public interests, not just simply the impression, indirectly, has been impugned by actions taken by a organization and or representative of the organization, depending on what your particular perspective or views are on the commentary that has been made. I am concerned about the issues that has brought this particular matter here today, which seems to suggest, based on all the reports that we have, even that of the report from the applicants and or the company's representative, MNP, that seems to suggest that more nefarious actions have taken place at the expense of the public interest and the expense of the public purse, quite frankly. And so I'm also concerned with respect to the fact that this seems to be a pattern. And we've heard that we're not the only municipality that is actually dealing with this particular issue. And I question the notion that this company did not have or doesn't have the systems in place to safeguard and protect the interests of their clients, in this particular case, the City of Toronto. And I think you asked questions, Mr. Chair, about technology usage and utilization of technology to ensure they capture this, and all the gap processes didn't capture what was actually happening. So to think that one particular employee have the power, this is really what it comes down to actually influence this process through an organization that does millions and millions of dollars of business with the City of Toronto and other clients, it seems as a very far-fetched stretch. And so I realize that there are two component parts here. One is all these gentlemen, and I don't know if there's any ladies, I don't see any, invests that are, oh, I see one. Sorry, thank you. I didn't see you initially. My apologies. Are obviously talented people who do amazingly great work. And I say thank you for that. We don't realize the work that they do, but they do it. And they toil day in, day out to help to make the city a better place and all the other areas that they work for a specific company. But through no fault of their own, actions have been taken that affects their livelihood and so on. And I'm painfully aware of that and so on. But at the same time, I have a responsibility and a job to do, which is my priority, which is to protect the public purse. I've heard from Mr. DiGeronimo that additional efforts will be made to ensure that the work that needs to be done is done. And again, we're not questioning the ability of this company, an organization, to do the work. They do amazing work. However, something has gone awry. And so do we simply say, well, let's take a pass on this. Let's just recover what we think we've lost, which at this point in time, we don't know fully what we've lost. There's more work to be done. I can support the recommendation by Councillor Chang in that this matter goes to council without a recommendation, because I moved the last one as it related to the subsequent company that we dealt with. And so to be consistent, I'm happy to do that. But I will simply say, when the matter goes to council, I'm prepared to actually vote for the staff recommendation based on the information that's been provided to us. And because it is a big decision, I think that perhaps it requires the full body of council to make that big decision. And I think, although we've been tasked with this responsibility, it's basically, I think we've got council on the 16th or whatever date that is. So it's a very short time frame. It's not as if we're allowing this to elapse for months and months. And I'm prepared to support that decision, although I'm also prepared to move and support the staff recommendations that are here in front of us, because I feel that there's been actions here that is just untenable in the presence of what our responsibilities are. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Holiday to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I have to admit I'm a bit surprised by Councillor Cheng's motion, and particularly what it does. It sets aside all of the work done by the committee today, which is admittedly complex and difficult, and provides a report to council without a recommendation from the committee. And it does not leave council in an easy position to deal with the item. Staff have a very clear recommendation before us. The sense I get from the conversation today is that the committee is of the mind that an action is needed to be taken. The only thing that seems to be in doubt, potentially, with at least a member of the committee, is the quantum. I'm not going to support Councillor Cheng's motion. And if Councillor Cheng has an argument about the quantum to bring to City Council, then we'll hear it then. But to leave this without advice to Council, I think makes it more difficult. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Holiday. That leaves me last. So I'm going to move the recommendations in the report that were put forward before us today. I won't be supporting Councillor Cheng's motion. As the chair of the General Government Committee, very proud of all the work we do. The members that were put on this committee, when they agreed to join this committee, they understood the work that was going to be before them, the obligations that was before them, the rules, the governance rules that say that this committee reports to City Council. The recommendation that if we approve the recommendation before us today, and I hope that we do support and approve this recommendation, it does go to City Council. We've had a very wholesome debate on this item for almost over 2 hours now. We've heard from the owner of the company, the CFO of the company, all of the relevant staff that have investigated this matter. We know the implications. It's very clear what the implications are. I don't think we're going to learn anything new in City Council. So I would ask the members of the committee to vote for the recommendations before us. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Thompson, point of order.
I may have missed it, but in your remarks, did you actually thank staff for their report?
No, I didn't. Thank you to staff. I did recognize them for all of the work they did. Okay, so we have Councillor Cheng's motion before us. All in favor? Opposed? That loses on a tie. And then we have the recommendations before us. All in favor? Opposed? And the recommendations pass 3-1. Okay, thank you. Our next item of business is, sorry, Matthew, I have a motion. There's a motion because we need to extend the meeting. So we have 2 items of business left before us. I'm going to move a motion to extend the meeting so we can finish those 2 items. That the General Government Committee, sorry Matthew, I can't, there's a little screen in front of the motion. The motion's on the screen that we extend the, I can't, oh, there we go. Thanks, Matthew. The General Government Committee extend its meeting past the scheduled 12:30 p.m. lunch recess to complete the agenda. So our next item of business is GG 26.1, largest property tax debtors with tax arrears greater than $500,000 as of December 31st, 2024, held by Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson, questions of staff?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, there are 2, let me just open this up here. Just give me a sec, Mr. Chair. Right. Yeah, thank you.
Hold your time.
Yeah, thank you. There was a table table 1, and there is a corresponding table, I believe, which basically showed the addresses and the specific properties and the amount that were outstanding and so on. I think there is also a corresponding table in the next report that really speaks to the ability of the city to recover any of the funds that are outstanding. I wonder if staff could actually speak to that and help me to understand whether or not there's an opportunity, as I realize this is just information, to be able to realize any of the outstanding amounts, taxable amounts that are due, that we would be able to get some funds as we, I guess some of these properties are going through bankruptcy proceedings.
Through the chair, where it's held in a receivership, we're sort of waiting in those situations to be able to work with the receiver. Where we have the ability and a tax arrears certificate has been registered on the property, we will always try to fully execute a tax sale to be able to recover where we're in those positions, depending whether there's successful bidders or not. And at that point, then we would work with CREM and legal to see if there's any internal opportunities. But we do have the ability to work through those processes to recover funds.
Thank you, and that's what I wanted to have a better understanding of the clarity of that. So all's not lost at this point, although we're not guaranteed that we'll be able to receive any of the arrears that is outstanding. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So with respect to the mortgages on some of the reports I read about the mortgages and non-payment and so on, and more details, but what is our standing? So the let's say a first mortgage would have the first priority with respect to the sale of the property, and where do we stand as part of the totem pole?
Through the chair, and thank you. We stand in first priority. So ideally, even if there is a mortgage or outstanding debt, with the tax arrears registered and through us conducting a tax sale process, the city recovers their funds first, and then the balance are paid into court for recovery through the other debtors.
And that's the same situation for CRA? I mean, do they come before the city or the city?
No, sorry, Councillor. No, it would be the city first through the tax sale process.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted that clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none. Speakers? Councillor Thompson, you held it? You want me the recommendation?
I could just move it. Yes. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson moving the recommendations in 26.1. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. And our next item of business is
16, I believe.
26.16.
Yeah, I held that as well. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Thompson, amendment to non-competitive contract number 470-23371 with 2790584, Ontario Inc. for catering for multiple Toronto shelter and support services location. Yeah. Councillor Thompson, questions of staff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, I wanted to understand this contract and the amendment to it. Can you help me to understand how we address the issue with respect to culturally sensitive meals and foods that I guess some of the, not I guess, but some of the clients in these particular facilities would require? How does that work with respect to this contract?
Through you, Chair, we actually make that as part of the stipulations in the bid and in the award.
Oh, fantastic. It's all part of the RFP. RFQ, is that what it is?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Uh-huh. Okay. And how do you monitor that?
There is a menu development plan that's put in place, and then it's pre-approved by the dietary managers.
Okay, got you. So in advance of the meals being prepared, people know what they're going to be getting? Is that what that is?
Correct.
Okay, got you. And then with respect to outreach to organizations and companies in the city, how do you sort of reach out to as part of your procurement, the RFP, RFQs, and so on. How do you notify people that the city is open for a bid on these contracts?
There are a few ways. We post it on, through the chair, apologies. We do post this on our Toronto bid portal. We also, when it is a niche market, we send out invitations to companies that we are aware would be interested in bidding. Depending on the process also, we often do market research, and this is how we get a list of companies potentially interested.
Okay. And if one wanted to take a look at your list of companies, would that be made available? I ask this question because I have at least one or two companies in my ward, and I don't know how they are actually faring, but I know that they've asked questions about bidding opportunity on meal preparation for the city's shelters and so on. And I wanted to understand whether or not their names are actually on your list of potential tenders.
Through the chair, we can actually make them aware if you wish to share their names. They can always reach out to us through our supplier development side, multiple avenues for us to find out.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are the questions.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Holiday, questions of staff?
Thank you. I just want to understand a little bit about the service itself. So according to the report, this serves Alexandra Hotel and Scarborough Women's Shelter. So the first is 68 people, the second is 106. And then there's a little note about some ad hoc winter respite services. Can you tell me a little bit about the meals that are provided to the folks that are in the Alexandra Hotel and the Scarborough Women's Shelter? Are they the same? What do the meals consist of?
Through the chair, they are the same, and they are the same with respect to our winter respites. The specifics will be based on the menu established by our dietary staff, along with the provider.
Are they individually packaged meals, or does this come as bulk food and then it's portioned out?
It's individually packaged and delivered to the sites.
Could you give me a sense of what this is, what a meal would be like?
I don't have the specifics in front of me, Councillor, but it's we do contract for 3 meals a day plus snacks, plus a snack, sorry.
But we don't have any sense, like, is breakfast like bacon and eggs? Is it, or is it, a piece of fruit? That I'm just trying to understand what we are getting under this contract, and really I'd like to get a little closer to what the cost is per meal.
So I can tell you that the cost is $37 per day per diem. That covers those 4 meals that I talked about, the three meals and a snack. So that's what we're spending. So it's roughly around $10 per feeding, I guess is the proper way to say that. I'm not sure. But again, the specifics, Councillor, I'm happy to reach out to your office and provide you with the specifics. I don't have those in front of me yet.
That would be fine. So you could give me some examples of what the meals are.
Absolutely. We can share some menus with your office so you can have that.
Would be fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm done questioning.
Thank you, Councillor Holiday. Other questions of staff on this? Saying none. Councillor Thompson, you held the item.
Yeah, no, thank you. Just wanted that information, which I was able to garner from staff. And I, a few companies in my ward, some of them are very small businesses that are always looking for opportunities and so on. And I guess I need to ensure that either if they're not on the list, that they can figure out how to get them on the list and so on for consideration. Calabria Bakery, for example, on Midland.
Support Scarborough.
Support Scarborough, right? Sir, I'm sure that Councillor Holiday will support Etobicoke and elsewhere and so on. And there's a few others as well that obviously they do, great work and so on. I am surprised though at the magnitude of the funds, which is $37, and you can feed somebody on $37 a day. That's really crazy, to be honest. You can't go to McDonald's and buy few Big Macs and so on for $37. So I mean, what exactly are we feeding them? Are we feeding them the appropriate, nutritional meals and so on? I mean, this is not a statement to the staff or anything. I'm just simply saying that is a very low number. And so
That's the budget we give them.
Yeah, no, I know. Then perhaps we need to figure that
Need
out.
to review that.
Yeah, I think we need to, quite frankly, because that's a very, very low sum. I mean, are you shaking your head in agreement or not? It's a very low sum, right? I mean, you go to buy anything these days. I mean, that's how you feed a grown person $37, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Wow, that's actually, I didn't know that. That's remarkable. I'm not criticizing what we have in front of us. I'm thanking the staff for this, but I really think that in this city where you have people who are in need of nutritional meals, even if they're in a shelter or any other place that they're there, if we're helping them, we should help them in totality, not simply just half measures, quite frankly, because that seems to be really, really low. Most young kids go to, I don't know, Smash Burgers or wherever they go, and they buy things that probably cost them a lot more than that.
I believe it's only 2 meals a day that we provide for. Is it 2 meals a day and snacks for
three.
$37? 3 meals. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's alarming, to be honest with you. And I'm glad I held it, even if it's just to garner that information and so on. And I suspect that we really need to review this. I'm certainly of the view that people who are obviously having challenges and so on should, if we're going to help them, let's help them. Let's not help them in a half measure way. I just don't understand how you can actually feed somebody in this city on $37. Are you giving them chips for 50 cents? Because that's not nutritional and healthy meals. I mean, these are healthy meals and snacks. I'm not advocating that we.
Well, maybe since we're approving this, well, we have the contract before us, maybe we can have staff report back at the next meeting on the composition of the meal.
Okay, there you go, Mr. Chair, as the chair of the committee. So we'll adopt what's in front of us, but really, as Councillor Holiday asked the questions about, what does the meals look like, this one, I just think these are some of the questions that we need to ask, because I don't know how you feed somebody on $37 a day. My lunch alone, if I go to some restaurant here, it costs me $37 just for lunch, quite frankly. I'll go to any restaurants in
Are they underpaying our employees to make them, or we're not?
Yeah, so
providing a nutritionally
we're smiling,
balanced
but
meal.
It's not funny. I just wanted to make sure that we
it's not at all.
A closer look at this, Mr. Chair. So I'll move this report, but also I'm glad we've got some information, and I'm happy, Mr. Chair, if you take the lead on that with respect to addressing that concerns that we have, because I think we should do better by the people who are in need of assistance from us, and this is not good enough.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none. Yep. So thank you very much. I will support the recommendations before us in this report, but I'm also going to echo Councillor Thompson's concerns. I've raised them before. I've raised them with previous mayors, with my concern about our ability to provide nutritional meals to the people that live in our shelters. I'm going to thank staff for all the work they do in our shelters. I know that they work very hard, providing meals to the best of their ability. But once again, on $37 a day, I've had a lot of concerns before about the quality of the meals and what we're providing. And I'll be raising this in a future meeting and see what we can, information we can have provided to us. Thank you. So we have the motion before us, moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries. Matthew, I believe that was our last item of business for today. Bills? No bills today? All right, no bills today. I want to thank staff for all of their work today and intruding on their lunch hour as well. Sorry about that. And I'm going to meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.